Wow, it is April, a month on the calendar that brings not only the NFL draft, but the spring transfer portal window. And while all eyes are on the spring game discussions, top 30 visits, draft needs, final waves of free agency, and spring football leagues, colleges across the country are getting through spring practices and preparing for that spring portal window. The big names and the big dollars that we all expect to see are just the tip of the iceberg in that transfer portal. And to go deeper, we are joined by GM of the UConn Huskies, Eddie Hernon, to talk portal, college football, and so much more here on Scouting the League. Everyone, and welcome to Scouting the League. First off, Scouts, NFL Scouts. Sign up today for access to the exclusive NFL-only Scouts group at thescoutingcommunity.com, the resource you need for all things NFL scouting, salary and data information from across the league, including per diems, allowances, other benefits, and so much more. Plus, mentorship with former scouts, executives, and GMs, contract evaluation, insurance consideration, financial planning, and so much more. Also, really excited about some of the development pieces with some big time teachers and knowers of ball. We have all of that coming up post draft. Questions, you know where to find me at RightStepADV, but head over to thescoutingcommunity.com. And for those that want to be NFL scouts, thescoutingcommunity.com has a spot for you as well. Go to thescoutingcommunity.com, scroll down to the aspiring scout section and get signed up today. Learn the scouting world from those who have been in draft rooms, hit the roads, know scouting and what it's all about. Networking, development, so much more for you as well. All of that is thescoutingcommunity.com. When you're done with that, no matter where you are, go give us a like, subscribe, and share wherever you are listening and watching Scouting the League. Whether it is our home at Fans First Sports Network, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Megaphone, or on YouTube, search Scouting the League and you will find us. Share it with a friend, leave us notes, comments, and let us know what you want to hear in the future. Really excited about some future episodes we have coming up, perhaps some live draft episodes where we will take your questions. Just stay tuned and you will get all of that. Joined as always by Neil Stratton at Inside the League on X. He is InsideTheLeague.com. Check out his blog, succeedinfootball.com, for a look at the football world that you will not get anywhere else. I, of course, Rodrik David at RightStepADV on X. RSAFootball.com is my website. This is a fun yet frustrating time of the year for me, as always, as I would love to be in draft meeting rooms once again, getting the board set, talking roster building, and so much more. But since I can't be there, I'm happy to be here with you, talking all things scouting. And to today's guest, Eddie Hernon. He is at EJ_Hernon11, named the GM of the UConn Huskies in 2024 after spending 5 seasons at Princeton in both personnel and coaching. A project consultant for the Cleveland Browns along the way as well, a graduate of Rutgers and Georgetown, the former in which he spent some time in the video department as well. Well, Eddie, welcome to the podcast.
I appreciate you guys having me.
Yeah, it is a fun time of the year. There's no downtime for football staff, football coaches. There's that little thing called the spring transfer portal window that we will get to. But before we get to all of that, obviously UConn in a great spot. Coach Mora, everyone part of the effort, coming off a 9-4 season. Beat North Carolina in the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. That had to have been fun to say, the Wasabi Fenway Bowl. You know, wasabi is just a good, fun word. So before we get into the coach and the program and everything, tell us a little bit more about you, your football background, and how you got to where you are today.
Okay. So I grew up Central New Jersey, played football from the time I was 8 throughout high school. Thought I was going to walk on at Rutgers. Believe it or not, Coach Schiano didn't have any use for a 200-pound linebacker who couldn't run. So started working in the program there, did mostly video stuff. Wasn't really sure what I wanted to do. I thought it was coaching and scouting, but I wanted to be sure when I started in the workforce. So went to Georgetown for grad school, did 3 days of my marketing internship my first semester and realized I hated the business side. So that was all the confirmation I needed.
Yep.
And from there, started to make more contacts, reached out to the Browns. Bill Kuharch, who was the assistant GM, I believe, at the time, got me on a scouting project that they were doing. So did that for a couple years. Realized my second year doing that, I needed more in-person connection. So started volunteering at Princeton, and that just kept growing from there. So was there for 5 years. And then did 2 years of DPP at Army. And then I've been at UConn since January 2024. So about a year and a half now.
Awesome. It is again there's some it's nice when you quickly realize this is something I don't want to do. And the
Yeah.
football one's funny because again, you can spend a lot of time, a lot of years doing some coaching stuff, maybe doing some personnel stuff. Again, there's always going to be an element of scheme, of evaluation, kind of no matter where you're at in football. But again, being in a football building, there's nothing like it. And again, you grow to find your role. We'll hit on a couple of pieces because again, the that Browns project consultant, again, it seems like they have, I don't know, 8, 10 of them every year. It's, I don't know if anybody ever gives a straight answer, a full answer, like if there even is a full answer. Maybe what did you learn from that time? What were you doing? What projects were you involved with? And do you feel like it was educational for you in your football growth?
It was definitely good. It was a little bit tedious. So basically, what they do with me is they'd give me a position group every week, and they'd assign me like 10 to 15 games to watch, and I'd chart things from coverages, grading plays, all that kind of stuff. So, like I said, watching 80 plays in a row and putting in 10 different inputs for each play can get a little tedious, but it was really good because it helped my attention to detail.
Mostly on the scheme side.
Yeah, mostly. I think they use it for analytics purposes. So I think, in the pretty early stages of it. So they were doing a historical database, so they had something to compare it to. So I was doing guys who were already in the league for a couple years, so it was like more of a pro scouting side too.
Okay.
So that amount to more almost like a QC job then, right, Eddie?
Kind of, yeah. They would give me, like I said, it could be 25 to 40 games a week, depending on how much I could take. So once I started going to Princeton a couple days a week, I took a little bit less my second year. But yeah, it would all depend. They had as many games for you as you would want, which was nice.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that's good. I mean, that's at least a crash course, connections, development. Did you really have much with you call it the Browns front office, Browns scouting staff, or did you feel like you were just a private consultant that really didn't get connected to many people there?
Pretty much. They had some scouting assistants help out with it, and Mike Setta, who's still there, kind of headed up the project. So you had some interaction with him. But the scouting staff itself, like Dan Sagany, is one of the guys who have gotten really close with, and I never talked to Dan when I actually worked there. So
Yeah, it's again that's the funny life of road scouts. Even you show up in the building a couple times a year after being on the road for 4 to 5 months. And it's like who's that new guy over there? And even when you're on the same team for multiple years, it takes forever to get to know people. So you go from the Browns to Princeton. Let's wait on Princeton now. Let's talk about that time at Army, because you talk about a unique football program, a unique way to operate. Um, Take us through Army football, and obviously they had some success this year, though Neil Stratton's Navy
yeah.
midshipmen knocked him off at the end of the year as
They
a
had
ranked
some
opponent.
success, not
Um,
all
you know,
success.
Yes, Coach
Army,
Monken wasn't a success at all after they lost that last game, but
exactly. Talk to us about Army football.
oh, it was awesome. I had the best experience I could have had there, but it's just such a different atmosphere than anywhere else you can be because you have the academic piece that you have at Princeton, but you're also selling them on the military. I think our 2023 class, we took 115 guys on signing day. So just the
Wow.
sheer volume you're dealing with really prepares you for anything else. And Coach Monken is awesome. Nobody runs a program as well as he possibly could. Like if I were a P4 AD, the first guy I would call for every job opening would be Jeff Monken.
Hmm.
What
Fascinating.
was the unique element that he brought to again Army, I guess, to his approach, being able to
He's
take that many
relentless.
players, relentless.
Yeah. Like I would get calls at 10:30 at night. Hey, did this kid go by Jim or Jimmy? He'd be calling kids in California. I'm like, Coach, you need a break. And then 6 in the morning, I'd be getting a new text about something else. So just football, football, football all the time. And that's what made them successful there. Because I read, I think the other day on the Athletic that before him, the 5 coaches before him were 40 and 166 or something. And
Mhm.
he's 30 games over 500, which is nothing short of a miracle.
Yeah,
I think we
especially in
won.
today's landscape of football.
Yeah.
I think we won 12 straight games,
Yeah.
something like that, prior
Yeah.
to Monk. And I say we because it's
You there?
once the
Hey,
Navy, always Navy.
Yeah.
But yeah, my sons for a while had never been alive for a Navy loss to Army,
Army.
and
Yeah.
unfortunately, that streak was broken when Monken got there. So Eddie, the service academies are never going to be able to be players in the portal. It's
No.
impossible.
No, they got to start at the beginning.
Can they be, can success be sustained there, given that there's no way they can draw players from other schools?
I think scheme wise helps, obviously. You have to run something different like they do. And I think the other thing that really helped us there is we could win on sheer numbers. Like we could take, say, we were taking 6 tight ends in a year. We could take 3 guys that were big upside projects that no one else would be able to use a spot on. And then we'd take 3 guys who were just tough, good football players. So with that kind of combination, we would be able to find someone that was productive.
How many guys would you sign 115 guys? How
Yeah.
many of them made through Beast, stuck around, were there for the end of, let's say, end of their plebe year football season?
65,
Okay,
probably.
about
So,
2/3.
yeah. So we'd probably get 30 of those 115 direct. About another 15 would decide they don't want to come before they even got to Beast. And
Mm-hmm,
then probably 20-ish would drop it during the prep school year. So
mm-hmm,
yeah,
mm-hmm.
I'd say roughly 65 would come in as freshmen.
Okay. And then most of those guys are going straight to maps?
Yeah, I'd say 2/3 go to maps.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
what
Okay.
about on the other side of it, Eddie? Because again, we've it's always been the case where guys again can't make it at the service academies, decide to transfer out for any reason. Did did you see or are you seeing the service academies, some of these young guys that really develop in year one or year two, are they getting approached and poached and recruited out? Is that again really the getting the one side of the portal only at the service academies?
Yeah, it's only bad for them. Like Kanye Udo, who was their big star running backs at Arizona State now, and they obviously their NIL deal's 12 grand and a rifle, so I don't think that could compete with what ASU is coming in with.
Yeah, I mean that's again. I'm going to throw in my wrestling reference again this week. Heavyweight champion and now Hodge Trophy winner again at Oklahoma State. Mr. Hendrickson was at Air Force and ends up at again probably signs a nice deal down in Stillwater. So different sport, same issue. And so let's talk about Princeton then, because again, Ivy League football again it's not the service academies, but it's also a different animal, a different beast. It's that academic component, not to mention all the changes that have happened with practice restrictions, with postseason restrictions, with capped games, everything that's involved with that with Ivy League stuff. Um, Talk us through the unique challenges, maybe again other than academics that you faced at Princeton, and kind of how you dealt with those, and kind of how it prepared you for UConn.
You know what it really was the most challenging part of it was it you were hurt on the middle class kid. Since they don't give academic scholarships, the lower class kids usually went for free. And then the really wealthy kids, the parents saw the value in it and they paid for it. They didn't care. So like on the middle class kids, we really got hurt and would lose to schools that we wouldn't normally lose to. So that was one of the big challenges there. And then they practiced like an NFL team. We very rarely tackled in practice. The injury prevention was really big with Coach Race, and Buddy Tevens was kind of the one who started all that.
Yeah.
But it's just a different type of run program, and Coach Race does a great job. Like he'll take advice from anywhere. Like football, there's a really big contingent of, oh, we're going to do it this way because that's how we've always done it. Bob's the opposite of that, which was a really good place to be to start in football because you saw that there's so many different ideas and ways you can do things. And just being at an open-minded place kind of opened up my mind and saw different possibilities.
Eddie, I know we're jumping around here a lot, but
No,
I
you're
want to
good.
make an important point here. You said you volunteered at Princeton, correct?
Correct.
And I presume you're a volunteer with the Browns as well.
So Browns, they paid me. So it wasn't a lot. It was about $15 a game, but I'd make
Right.
$400 a week. Like I said, it was enough to pay my bills, which is perfect. So I
Okay.
realized, okay, I could volunteer at Princeton since I'm making a little bit of money with Cleveland.
Okay. So, but the point is, you certainly weren't getting rich in either job, and at
No.
Princeton, you weren't making any money at all.
No.
One
And
thing
then
that I get back a lot from younger people now is I've got to be paid. I have to be paid. why were you able to, well, you kind of talked about how you kind of covered the expenses, but at the same time, that had to be difficult to go out and work and know that there was nothing for you. How long did it take to get to where you were getting some kind of compensation from Princeton? And when you went in, did you kind of have a plan? Listen, I can only do this for so long, or was it hell or high water? I'm just going to do this because it's the only way to get in.
So I was lucky. I was 40 minutes from where I grew up, so I stayed home for a little while, so that helped. Year in, I got $10,000, so a big pay bump. And
Okay.
I would work contracting in the summer. When we were in downtime and we weren't in camps, I would do that. I'd be on roofs doing whatever I needed to do. So I'd make $600 cash a week doing that, which was great. So that was kind of sustained me throughout the fall and the spring, which was good.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Mhm.
it was just a whatever it takes type of deal. And then it went from 10 grand to 20 grand to 30 grand. So
Mhm.
like I said, every year I got a little bit more there, and it eventually got to the point where it was sustainable until I could get to Army where I was making a real salary.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So you
Okay.
go, you spend time at Princeton, at Army. Again, you're with the Browns. Through that time, we talk about it all the time on this podcast, that networking, your champions, the people that are your mentors, those guys, those people in positions that are going to help you, that are you're going to lean on to for advice. Who were some of those guys through the process that really helped you? Again, ultimately, maybe get you now to where you're at as the GM of a really successful program in UConn.
In all honesty, I lucked out with UConn. UConn was the one place I had no connection. They
Wow.
posted it and I applied, and like they interviewed like 10 guys, and luckily Coach Mora saw something here. So that was
Wow.
good. But I've had a million people help me. Like the biggest one has been Tom Gamble. He's South Jersey guy. I interviewed in Jacksonville probably 6 years ago, and we've stayed in touch. And every time I need to bounce something off somebody, I call Tommy. And he's been awesome with me. And I'm sure there's 50 other people in the NFL and in college who have the same story about Tom. And there's been a bunch of other guys. Ryan Grigson's been really good with me. I don't want to start naming them because I'll start forgetting guys, but
Mhm.
there's been a million guys. And being a pro liaison, I was a pro liaison the whole time at Princeton. I was a pro liaison in Army, and I'm still technically the pro liaison here. So doing that helped me build a lot of really good connections.
Yeah, you are the guy to know for NFL scouts at UConn. There's no question about that.
Yeah,
So
well,
working in the Northeast gave you a lot of experience probably with younger scouts, Eddie. Is that fair to say?
correct.
And so have you been able to kind of make that work for you as those guys have ridden through the ranks and gone into more senior positions?
Yeah, I was teasing Phil By about that the other day. So Phil started coming through Princeton, and he's a Princeton alum. When he was a scouting assistant, I go, "Now you're a big shot director, a player person. I'm surprised you're still coming on visits with me."
That's good. Well, that network is so important, though. I mean, I presume that you've already talked about Tom Gamble, you've talked about Gregson. Um, would you be where you are right now if you weren't able to build those relationships?
No, no, it's so important. And even the biggest thing, like at Princeton, was the coaches too. And how I got into Army is Tom Gamble and Ethan Wall are really close. And my boss at Army was Tucker Wall, Ethan's brother. And Tucker was great to me, and another one who's been a really helpful resource and has been awesome to work with. So in football, the field's so small that you have to have good relationships with people. That's really what it's all based on.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
absolutely. It's a relationship business, no matter where you're at in football. What coaches to players, scouts to pro liaisons. Again, every relationship matters. Let's talk about some of these UConn guys you got lined up before we get into some of the way you guys are operating this time of year. Got a couple of linemen, you got a D lineman, you got a whole group of players. I think there were maybe 10 to 15 that you guys had to go through your pro day. Lunt, Sen, Gordine. Who are some of these NFL guys that you expect to see coming out of the program on NFL rosters next year?
So Chase, we'll start out with Chase. Chase is the big name. Chase is awesome. He's steady Eddie. Every day comes, same demeanor. Uh, about as clean off the field as you can get. Drives all the guys to church every Sunday. Uh, very stoic. Like I said, about as clean as you can get, and just a hard worker, great kid. Like literally everything you want. And for a team who runs outside zone, he's going to be a really good tackle. It'll
Is
take
he
him a little
healthy,
while.
Eddie?
Sorry, Neil, go ahead.
Is he healthy?
He's getting there. He been training for about 3, 4 weeks. He had the injury in the bowl game, and it was about a 6 week injury. So he really didn't get enough time to train as much as he would have for the pro day. But
Mhm.
he's bouncing back. He's moving around okay. He looked good in the positional drills on pro day. So that's really the important thing.
Mhm. Mhm. Okay.
What about Valentine? Are you the I believe the foreigner, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So Val's the opposite of Chase, which is good. They're like good cop, bad cop in that room. So Val's the firm hand in that room. when he's staying on guys, making sure they're working. He has that old Eastern European of I don't have any sympathy, work harder. But he off the field, he's the complete opposite. He's the most fun kid to be around. He's always joking around in the lunchroom. Like all the guys love him, and that's why they know it's always coming from a good place when he's getting on them. But when it's time to work, it's time to work.
Yeah.
So, like I said, I couldn't say any better things about Val, and he'll make some team pathway spot very happy.
Yeah, absolutely. I know that's that both guys I did evals on last fall, and there's both plenty to like about both those guys. And again, we've seen the NFL take the route of hey, you draft those big guys and develop them in any number of different ways. And over on the D line, well-known guy that I'm sure will have his name butchered throughout the process. Talk about your defensive lineman.
So Dal's awesome. Dal always coming in the building. He's a little bit quieter kid, always a smile on his face. Him and Chase are both in the same boat. They were both here for 6 years, and they saw a lot of losing in those first 3 years. And they ran the course, and they were the leaders that got us from being a 1-win team in 2021 before Coach Mora got here to a 9-win team last year. So I can't say enough good things about those guys who helped turn this place around and stuck around when they could have left in the portal, probably for more money. So I've just been really impressed with everybody since I've been here.
Yeah.
Any surprising players that maybe will sneak onto a 90 or maybe even onto a 53 that we aren't talking about right now, Eddie?
So there's a handful. TJ Sheffield came in from Purdue this year. He was really steadying force in the receiver room, returns punts. Malik Dixon-Williams tested really good. He was a multi-year starter for us at safety. Jelani Stafford played a little fullback. He's a sawed-off D lineman, 6 foot 290. Was our goal line fullback 2 years ago, scored 6 touchdowns. Wow. So I think he'll find a way. And he's another one of those kids. He's kind of the emotional leader on that side of the room. And then 2 of our linebackers, Jaden McDonald and Tui Brown, I think will get a shot somewhere. So we had a really good senior class, and we did well in the portal, which really helped.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's start talking about that portal because again, it's getting ready to open up. It's April 16th to the April 25th this year. That spring portal window, barring any of the number of caveats that the NCAA decides to throw in there for coaches changes, anything like that. You're a group of 5 GM. How are you approaching the transfer portal this time of year, knowing that we're probably going to lose some, but we need to go get some too? Talk about your approach.
So we did our heavy lifting in December and January. We brought in 20 guys, all from varying levels, who we're really happy with. And now it'll kind of depend how the next couple of weeks go. So we have our spring evaluation period, and we had just had a personnel meeting for 2 hours, just going over our guys and some of the new guys and how we think they'll fit and what their roles will be. So next couple of weeks will be big in determining that. But I see this as kind of putting the final touches on our roster. So we won't take 20 guys like we did in the fall, and we'll have a couple surprises. I'm sure 1 or 2 guys we want to keep will leave, but that's kind of how we're going to approach it as of now, unless anything changes.
Eddie, as a guy at a G5 school, how much of your job is offense versus playing defense and trying to keep your guys at home and kind of re-recruit them?
So I'm sure we'll get into Coach more later, but he's awesome with that. Like, he understands kind of the NFL approach, and he's super supportive of all our kids. Like, hey, if you want to go in the portal, go see what you have, and if we can match it, we'll match it. So he's just been supportive, and we've kept a lot of kids because of that approach, because they felt comfortable and they knew what they were getting with him. So he's been really good in building a player-centric culture.
Interesting.
You've got the spring portal window, which again you call the finishing touches. So is it a completely different beast than that, December, January portal where, man, I dread that end of season portal, knowing that it is going to be mass chaos for a month, as opposed to, hey, this is going to be a walk in the park here come April?
Oh yeah, we'll probably take about a third of the guys we took in December and January. And there was about 3 to 4 weeks straight where I was leaving our dinners here at 10:30 every night and getting back in at 4:30, making sure the building was good. So yeah, this I think will be a little bit smoother sledding, and we'll have a little bit more time to prepare for it too. So that'll be good.
Yeah.
So you don't have, obviously UConn doesn't have the budget of an Ohio State or Michigan or what have you. What's the lure? How do you get them in the building? How do you get them to take the OVs? How do you do that, Eddie?
Well, after this year, now we have success to sell, which is a big factor. And then I think we have two really big factors. We're still a national brand. We're a big state school that's been successful in our athletic program. So I think that's a really good thing we have to sell kids. They know what UConn is and have some idea of what we stand for. And then Coach Morris, another big sell. We have a former NFL head coach who was a P4 head coach for 6 years as well before he got here. So having that cachet and his ability to get guys to the next level is a really big sell for us. He's really our best weapon, even though you wouldn't like me saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, that's perfect spot to talk about Coach Mora because, again, the resume is really impressive for a coach that seems like he's really found his home at UConn, been in the NFL. He's been at the top of, P5 programs when it was P5. Now it's P4. Again, what unique things. Again, the experience, understanding, again, NFL free agency more or less is what kind of it seems like college, transfer portals become a unique approach. Again, he's been with some really good players that he can probably pick up the phone and call at different times to help recruit kids. Again, relentless understanding. Like what are the really unique things about Coach Mora that again most people maybe don't see?
Yeah, I think he was the perfect coach at the perfect time with credibility and a name, and he brought that right away. And he demanded excellence out of a lot of people on campus that didn't really know what a big time football program was supposed to be run like. So I think he gave them instant credibility. And then I think he was way ahead of the curve when it came to this portal stuff because he treated it like NFL free agency. He embraced it instead of trying to fight it. So I think that was a really big feather in his cap and why we've been so successful in the portal.
Is he a big part of the actual recruiting? And I don't know if there are rules or stipulations about that, but I mean, is he really kind of out in front and trying to reach out and pitch UConn to possible players coming in?
Yeah, especially with portal guys. Yeah, he has his hand in it. Like I give him a list every morning of guys that we added on, and he watches all these guys and then gets involved as soon as he can with it.
So he does a lot of the film watching as well.
Yeah, yeah. With this, with the high school guys, it's more of me and the coaches, but with the portal guys, he's very hands on.
Hmm. So Eddie, from when that first list when the first day of the portal, what is y'all's process? Are you going to start are you looking for certain positions? Are you saying, oh my gosh, the guy came from that school, we really got to give him a look? Kind of how do you sift through on that first look and say these guys might be Huskies?
So I think it's a broad approach. Like we'll usually go by levels. Like, all right, we're going to bring in a D lineman, but we aren't necessarily set on taking a tackle or an end. We really want the best player available. So I think that's kind of filtered out by who goes in. And obviously, like I said, you have some guys announcing it now, so we have a little bit of a head start. But I think it's just trying to find the guys who are the best fit for what role we need. But we obviously want the best player available, and then we could shift around guys who are already on our roster.
Hmm. And so when you see a player that may be of interest, do you take the first look and then maybe say, okay, pass this to Coach Mora, or are you guys shoulder to shoulder kind of try to sift through all the guys kind of at once?
So I'm shoulder to shoulder with the coordinators, really. That's kind of our
Okay.
first step. And then we'll get them to Mora once they kind of pass through the first couple thumbs ups. Like usually it's me and a position coach, and then we'll have the coordinator watch him right after. And then if we think he's a guy we want to bring on a visit, we get him to Mora.
Okay, I got you.
That evaluation aspect, we've seen college coaches jump into the NFL, and again, everybody's got their reasons why. It's, full-time job, portal, lack of structure, who knows what's coming up in the future. And it's been a question really going back even a couple years where who is the primary evaluator for whether it's recruiting or now free agency slash a transfer portal. You've mentioned the coaches being part of it. Again, you're as the GM, you're obviously evaluating. We're still relying so heavily on our coaches, we're increasing our scouting staff at the college level to model more of an NFL scouting staff. Obviously, Coach Moore has been around both now, to where he's been, again, NFL coach, NFL scouting staff, NFL coaching staff evaluation. How are you guys splitting that, and where do you kind of see it going for UConn and maybe college football in general?
So we have two full-time evaluators under me who do a lot of that stuff. They each have a side of the ball. And I have 6 student interns that kind of filter stuff for me. They'll just kind of gather the information and get the sheets ready so I know who's going in, so I don't have to do that myself. And then we're still very coach centric, and we'll use a lot of our analysts and quality control coaches for those purposes too, just as kind of a first filter for the position coaches and the coordinators. So it's pretty much a whole group effort when you think about it. And then the coordinators are really, they're both responsible for their sides of the ball, and they even have different approaches, and they're both awesome. But just by their backgrounds, like our DC was the DC at Mississippi State beforehand. So he has more of an SEC approach, whereas our OC was at William and Mary before. So he has kind of more of an FCS approach. So it's just kind of balancing everything and trying to get everybody on the same page while still making sure everybody's heard and we're doing things as a team.
Eddie, you talked about attrition at the service academies when it comes to players. What about your volunteers? Again, UConn is not a place that necessarily is sending kids up to be scouting assistants with NFL teams consistently. What's your pitch? And of the volunteers you have, how many have been with you for more than a year? How many are, and how often are you trying to go out and find those guys? Do you have kind of a coordinated effort where you go and try to beat the bushes and see if you can find people who will come in and just grind with y'all?
So I lean heavily on my student interns who do a great job. I have roughly six-ish of them that help me with film stuff, and I give them lists, and they all want to work in football when they finish. So that's kind of the incentive. And I do everything I can because I know how hard it is for a young person to try and help them get jobs once they finish. So that's kind of the incentive. And like I said, I can text them at 9 o'clock at night, hey, Nick, get me a list. And he does it, and I have it by the next morning. So I'm lucky that I have a handful that I can really rely on and really care about doing a good job and eventually working in football so they can get things done for me.
Are they all freshmen or are they all sophomores? You
So
kind of have a
it's
mix?
split. About half of them are seniors, and then I have 3 younger guys too. So it's good. These seniors are kind of bringing along the younger guys, and they're going to be ready to step in that role next year when some of them finish. And then, like I said, what if jobs open here too? I'll go to people I know first, like anywhere else.
Sure.
So, like one of my seniors is awesome. So he might go somewhere for a year or two, and my guy Bertz, who's basically my right hand guy, might leave and go somewhere. And the first person I'm going to call is Nick. So.
Okay. And how does that compare to how it was at Princeton and at Army?
So at Army, we really had no help. Army was the toughest because we had a couple players who medically retired, and that was really it. And we only had them when they were done with their military stuff. So we had them for maybe 3 hours a day. And both of them were awesome. But like I said, it was a limited support staff. And then we had 2 volunteers who did a good job for us. But that was really it, in addition to the 4 full-time people we had at Army. And at Princeton, it was basically me doing everything myself.
Wow.
Yeah. So that was, in all honesty, I tell all my interns, you should go work at an FCS school for a year or two if you can swing it, because I learned how to do so much there because I had to learn everything.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I coached defense and special teams too. I was a quality control coach for both sides. So you get a little bit of everything, and it makes your football knowledge so much better.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The GM role in college football, that's a new title. And with new title, new responsibility, kind of new ways to oversee the program. I would say the growing expectation is that scouting and evaluation staffs for, again, the top end, again, UConn's group of 5 and P4 schools is going to grow. It's going to be more full-time scouts, going to be more people. Have you guys had conversations? Is that your expectation? Is it kind of, hey, we got to wait and see what happens with revenue sharing and where does everything go? Again, that's kind of the nature of college football right now is, hey, we're kind of planning but waiting to see. How are you guys viewing it and kind of attacking that?
That's kind of what we've been doing with everything, in all honesty, even with the roster. We've just been kind of waiting and seeing. We've had contingencies in place for if things go this way, but until that ruling comes down, you really can't plan anything.
Yeah.
So like we were going through potential walk-ons for this year, but we don't know if the roster is going to be 105, if there's going to be practice squad spots, what the deal's going to be. So we can plan all we want, but until we know anything, it really doesn't serve that much of a purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. It's NCAA, hurry up and make some decisions, right?
Yeah, they're a little bit reactive.
Eddie, what's it like being at a school where basketball is so prominent and maybe even you could argue the big brother when it comes to the major sports there? I mean, is there friction there, and do they take resources that maybe you wish you could have?
I mean, obviously, like I said, they'll use resources because they're a national brand name, but we use it as a positive. Like we bring kids to basketball games on junior days. We think it's a big sell. So anything we could use to attract people here, we're good with it. And Coach Hurley and Coach Moore have a really good relationship. They'll come to practices every now and then. So, like I said, it's a really good working environment for both of us. So if we can help each other, we try to.
Do you ever look at any of the players on the team as, hey, maybe this guy could be a pass catcher in the end zone? This could be a guy maybe come off the edge. Is there ever any thought given to that?
Yeah, we think about it every now and then. We'll walk through past a guy on campus. We're like, oh, he would make a great tight end. But yeah, I don't know if they're giving up their guys too easily for us.
Yeah,
Probably
I
not.
imagine. You talked about the spring. Yeah, I think you called it the spring practice window. Obviously, the spring ball evolution. We've got programs talking about scheduling outside spring games. There are also teams basically pulling way off of spring practices, not even having spring games out of fear of injury, out of fear of putting their potential portal players on film. Again, teams, as I look through rosters, teams not putting their 2025 rosters online yet. Again, make it a little bit more difficult. How are you guys approaching kind of spring ball and spring practice, spring game with knowing that, hey, this is going to make us better for this fall, but also we don't want to put too much out there for people to come poach our guys?
Yeah, so we're lucky. We're not really paranoid about any of that. Like our rosters out there, who's on our roster is who's on the website. But we did like an abbreviated spring game last year anyway, so we'll just probably continue doing that. And it's never been a big televised thing, so we don't really need to worry about the film getting out and other people getting hold of it or poaching any of our guys from that. So that's kind of been good. But yeah, we've been mostly business as usual. I'm sure there'll be a couple little tweaks as we go on in the spring, but nothing major.
Eddie, how was Pro Day this year? Was it pretty well attended? How many teams were represented? Kind of give us a rundown of what that looked like.
It was great. So Coach wanted to make a concerted effort to help all the smaller schools in Connecticut too, which was awesome. So we had 50 guys work out.
Wow.
Yeah, so we had a big turnout, and we had 30 of 32 NFL teams, and we had 41 scouts there. And then we
Wow.
had, I think, half the CFL too, because one of our guards is supposed to be a first round pick in the CFL draft. So
Okay. Okay.
yeah,
So
so we
did you
had
have to go
go
ahead?
ahead.
Did you have to do the vetting? I mean, that's an aggressive number of small school
Yeah.
athletes there. How did y'all kind of set the gate so that it wasn't just kind of a y'all come thing where everybody showed up?
Yeah, so we started cutting it off a little bit towards the end, and we basically made the promise, hey, you can come here and test, but that didn't necessarily mean they could do the position drills. So Brian Smith with the Patriots did an awesome job. Him and I were in contact the whole week before, just making sure we were organized and everything went smoothly. So, like I said, it ended up going actually better than I thought it would. We had everybody out of there in 3-4 hours, which was about as good as you can expect with that turnout.
Was it were okay, you said they could come in and test. Does that mean run 240? Does that mean run 140? They
We,
could
we
do
had them run through.
shuttles. How much of it were they able to do?
So basically, we split it. We had all our UConn guys and then the guys who were recommended by scouts in
Sure.
one group. And then we had a second line where we had Luke Palco running all that, who also was a huge help and testing the second group, which was about 20 something guys too. So that's kind of how we split it. So we had two circuits going on at once.
And they got to do shuttles, jumps, the whole 9 yards?
Yep, they did everything.
Wow, very impressive.
Sounds
Do you think
sounds
has that been the plan in the past as well?
So we never had, for some reason, like last year, we didn't have this many. Maybe because we were successful, the smaller schools kind of reached out more and Coach Mora was happy to help everybody, but we never really had that many reach out that they wanted to do it. But Coach was, like I said, he goes, I think it's a service to everybody in the state of Connecticut, so we should do it if we can, which we were happy to do.
And there are a number of schools in Connecticut, right, that play football?
Yeah, so we had Central Connecticut State. We had a couple from Southern Connecticut. Sacred Heart had a few. Yeah, Yale, obviously. Yale had a few guys. Actually, Yale's safety, Wande Owens, that performed really well. He was at UNH last year, but he was a Yale graduate. So, and then we had Thomas Perry, who did the East-West Shrine game for Middlebury. So we had a good turnout, in addition to all our guys who tested pretty well.
Yeah.
I mean, do you remember, surely, I bet you didn't have 30 or 32 teams last year, or am I wrong?
We might have been close because we had Haynes. I think we had actually 30 last
that's right.
year as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because Haynes was an early round guy.
Yeah.
Sounds like a playbook right out of Northwestern's pro day, kind of the way they do things, which again, from the Midwest standpoint, I used to love that. It was a fantastic, well-run thing that they did over there as well. And again, it's for programs like UConn, for Northwestern, who again you guys end up with some top end players every couple years, but again, a consistent way to be really good for the state, to get people in the building, all that kind of good stuff. Let's step back for a second, Eddie. We've already made fun of the NCAA a little bit, and again, it's the NCAA. We know they're going to be slow. That's the way, between litigation, decision making, conference commissioners, and school presidents make a lot of decisions. If you're in charge of the NCAA, you're making decisions for football. What are maybe the one or two first things you're addressing, even if it's just kind of bringing it back to equilibrium to ensure that college football stays in a good spot and continues to go in a good spot?
I think I would go with just a spring window, even though it doesn't give you spring ball to evaluate some of these guys, just because you saw all the guys opting out of bowl games. It made bowl season a mess. And there's kids who have been with the team the whole year and they want to be good to their teammates, but they have to look out for their own future. So it puts them in crappy positions, it put the coaches in crappy positions. Like, it just does a disservice to everybody. And then the other thing, I would just want them to have a concrete schedule. Like, they put a waiver blanket in December 15th that kids could visit from June 1st to the 6th, when coaches were already supposed to be with their families for the holidays and had vacation plans and everything. Just have some sort of idea. Like, a little bit of forthright thinking could go a long way.
Mm-hmm. Now, Eddie, you joined us at our symposium in Indianapolis, and one of the topics was salaries, and the way that P4 GMs are getting paid now is really rising quickly. Now, I've known you for a long time, Eddie, and I know that you've had your eyes, pretty high, and you want to try to keep achieving things. Are you at a point now where the NFL is almost secondary to maybe continue to build in that GM level, given the fact that they are getting paid so well, compensated so well? Or is the NFL still something that will be, I mean, not to say that taking nothing away from UConn, but I mean, the NFL is still kind of an eyes on the prize kind of thing for a lot of people. Where are your goals right now?
I still would like to challenge myself at the NFL level, but it also does make college a lot more appealing. So in the past, it would have been NFL, NFL, NFL. Now, at least, I would seriously take college into consideration if it was the right move. So, like I said, it's definitely made a big difference.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You feel like it's fair? Would you feel comfortable crossing countries at this point? You've really put some tent stakes down in the Northeast. I mean, do you think that will still translate to other places?
It depends. Like I said, I do love the Northeast. All my family's here. I realize when I get out of New Jersey how much of a New Jersey person I am. So, like I said, it would be appealing for me to stay up here, but I'll go wherever I need to go.
Sure.
Yeah, Neil, you're going to have Coach Mora calling you. Yeah, it sounds like you're trying to open some lanes here. I know Coach Mora is not going to want to open for Eddie here, so expect a phone call as it's just one more guy that he has to make sure he recruits back.
That's true.
But again,
Trying to be diplomatic.
The UConn program. Again, what if people want to know more about you, Eddie, about the program, about camps? Obviously, you'll have a summer camp schedule, spring ball, open practices. Where can people go to find any of those things? Where would you direct them? Social media, videos on campus. What would you say to them?
I think our UConn football Twitter does a great job getting a lot of stuff out, and then visiting us for camps. We have 2 camps. We have one 7-on-7 on June 8th, and then we have a mega camp on June 19th. So if you want to get in front of the coaching staff, that's probably the best way to do it.
Good. What about your personal Twitter?
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, guys.
What about your X handle? Where are you tweeting at?
EJ_Hernon11. I'm not a big Twitter guy, but I'm in the nature of college football. I need to use it a little bit more than I normally would.
Yeah, and I guess that shows my age. It's probably more Instagram than Twitter, X, whatever it is. You have a handle on Instagram as well?
I never use my Instagram for
All right,
recruiting,
there we
so
go.
not
So
really.
stay with Twitter then.
Yeah, stick it with Twitter. And high school recruits usually don't really use it, which is strange. But because I think basketball is actually the opposite. I think basketball's all Instagram. But yeah, football's mostly Twitter.
All right, good.
Well, we know you're busy, Eddie, and I know you got a lot on your plate, especially with the portal winter not just kind of around the corner. But before you go, 7-on-7 has really taken off here in Texas, and you just mentioned that y'all are going to host a camp. Has it become a prominent thing and a big part of the recruiting race, chase, whatever you want to call it, in Connecticut as well?
Yeah, it's awesome. Like I didn't really know what to expect because at Army we never did it. Obviously, being a school that ran the option, it wasn't a big appeal for us. But yeah, we had one last year and we had 24 teams show up, and it was a great way to evaluate players. What great way to get to see some younger guys, get to know coaches in the area. It was a really positive experience.
Are they strictly from Connecticut? The
No,
team?
we got some from New Jersey. We got some from Long Island. We got a couple from New York City, I think. So we got kind of all over the East Coast, a couple Massachusetts schools as well.
Okay. And you hold it right there in stores?
Yep, we have it right on campus. So
Wow.
yeah, it was a great experience last year.
Is it a full weekend kind of thing?
No, just one day.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
Well, it's probably good that we're wrapping up because you don't want to get my opinion on 7-on-7, how it's taken over, whether it's real football, real evaluate. You can at least see guys move around, but again,
Yeah.
that's not a soapbox I'm going to get up on today, and we'll just wrap it up. But Eddie, it's been fantastic, good stuff. Again, good
Thanks so
luck.
much, Eddie.
Great having you on. If there's always a spot for you on Scouting the League.
Yeah, no, I appreciate both of you guys having me and all you guys do for the scouting community.
Awesome, Eddie. Well, good luck this year, and we'll look forward to seeing UConn have continued success.
Best of
Appreciate
luck,
it.
brother. Keep up the success.
Yeah, I'll talk to both of you guys soon. Really appreciate it.
Agents, before we go, make sure you go check out Agent Live 360. It is at agentlive360.com for everything you need for your agency, from players to coaches, managing profiles, tracking invoices, sending invoices, getting paid, keeping up on every element of your entire agency. Notification emails, file folder storage, ROI, transactions, invoices, calendar, contracts, teams, reps, everything all in one spot for you. That is Agent Live 360. Hop on, request a demo. Yours truly will hop on, walk you through it. I can promise you we will talk some football as well. Sign up now with code TRIAL90 for a 90-day, 3-month trial at just $10 a month for Agent Live 360. That's at agentlive360.com. Go check it out now.